If you're assessing clients with acne or rosacea, you've probably noticed something important. Not all cases look the same. Some are mild, some are more severe, and most importantly, not all skin can tolerate the same treatment approach. Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, I'm Rene Serbon, skin expert and educator, helping professionals build real skin knowledge grounded in sound skin science. Today, I want to walk you through one ingredient that I consider foundational when treating barrier-compromised skin, regardless of whether the client presents with acne, rosacea, eczema, or chronic sensitivity. This ingredient is phosphatidylcholine. By the end of this video, you will understand what phosphatidylcholine actually is, why it matters from a barrier perspective, and why it belongs in nearly every skin barrier protocol you build as a practitioner. This ingredient shows up again and again in successful barrier repair work, and once you understand why that is, you'll start seeing it differently in your formulations. So let's start with the basics. Phosphatidylcholine is a phospholipid, which means that it's a fat-based molecule that has a phosphate group attached to it. And that distinction matters because phospholipids aren't just moisturizing ingredients, they're structural components of the skin barrier. Phosphatidylcholine is naturally present in the stratum corneum, and it's not something foreign that we're trying to force into the skin at all. It is something the skin already recognizes and knows how to use. So that's why this ingredient behaves very differently from traditional hydrators. At its core, phosphatidylcholine is one of the lipid structures the skin relies on to maintain barrier integrity. You've probably heard the stratum corneum described as a brick and mortar structure. The bricks are corneocytes that are cornified cells at the end of the keratinocyte life cycle. The mortar, on the other hand, is the lipid matrix. That lipid matrix is made up primarily of ceramides, cholesterol, and free fatty acids. Now, here's the part that often gets overlooked. Phosphatidylcholine is a precursor to ceramide. So when phosphatidylcholine is applied topically, the skin can convert it into ceramides, which is absolutely essential for barrier integrity. So if ceramides are the finished building blocks, then phosphatidylcholine is the raw material the skin uses to manufacture them. Without raw materials, barrier repair simply can't happen. Here is where the ingredient knowledge connects directly to clinical thinking. When you're assessing a client with acne, rosacea, and other skin conditions, one of the first questions you should be asking yourself is the barrier compromised? If the answer is yes, and in many cases it actually is, then phosphatidylcholine immediately becomes a priority ingredient. You can see barrier compromise clearly during the skin assessment. It shows up as redness, sensitivity, tightness, flaking, reactive skin, and texturized skin. All of these points point to damage within the lipid matrix, and when the lipid matrix is damaged, then ceramide levels are depleted. At that point, the skin can't repair itself without support. These are the signs that can tell you that the barrier needs attention before anything else. Let me give you an example. I worked with a client who had moderate acne and had been using strong retinoids alongside, let's just say, a high concentration exfoliating acid. Her acne was improving, but her barrier was absolutely destroyed. Her skin was red, reactive, and peeling, also obviously uncomfortable. Continuing actives at that point would only make things worse. So what we did is we stopped the actives and focused on rebuilding the barrier using phosphatidylcholine as the cornerstone of her protocol. Within 2 weeks, her redness decreased, which is something that I see in most clients when we repair barrier function, as you can see on the example on screen. Even though this example is quite mild, this is very quick and very common that I visibly notice a change in that inflammation in the client's skin. By 4 weeks, her skin felt supple again, and once the barrier was stabilized, we retargeted the acne with suitable actives, and this time, when we reintroduced retinoids, her skin tolerated it. That's the difference between chasing a condition and supporting the skin's ability to heal. The barrier stability changes everything. Mechanistically, phosphatidylcholine does something very specific. When applied topically, it penetrates into the stratum corneum. The skin recognizes it as a familiar lipid and incorporates it into the lipid matrix. From here, the skin can convert it into ceramides, and that accelerates barrier repair and reduces inflammation as the function of the skin barrier improves. Now, this is where many estheticians get it wrong. Phosphatidylcholine is not a hydrator. It is a structural repair ingredient, and it doesn't work by adding water to the skin. It works by rebuilding the lipid's architecture, and that allows the skin to regulate water in the first place. That distinction changes how and when you use it. When you see phosphatidylcholine in practice, the form matters, concentration matters, and context matters. Liposomal forms tend to penetrate better. Effective concentrations usually fall between 2 and 5%, and it works best as part of a complete barrier repair system, not in isolation. For compromised skin, the barrier must come first. Actives come later, not the other way around. Understanding phosphatidylcholine removes guesswork from your protocols, and it allows you to work with the skin instead of against it, just how we prefer in the corneotherapy realm. That level of ingredient literacy is foundational to clinical practice. If you do want to deepen your understanding of barrier repair, ingredient mechanisms, and how to build protocols that actually work, that's exactly what I teach inside the Professional Skin Assessment Mastery course. The link is in the description below to learn more. Now, with that, I want to say thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you next week.